Good morning. How's everybody doing? Has anybody been scammed in the last week?
Yesterday,
Yes. Hopefully,
I
it was
bought
an attempt.
$500 worth of Bitcoins.
There you go. And today it's worth $600.
I had one from a person that I haven't heard from for a long time. Oh, hi, just want to touch base with you. Yeah.
So, it's just happens continuously.
Yeah.
For the folks online, in the memo that went out this morning, there was a link to a document. And if you can print that out, you don't have to do it right now, but I'd like if you take a snapshot and send it back, and we're going to do a little survey. It's anonymous, you don't put your name or any identifying information on it, but I want to see what people use, and that will help us for next week. I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. Can everybody hear okay? Claudia, coming through all right? Okay, this is interactive, right? You're supposed to have people talking.
That's just a
Perfect.
song. Yeah, it's just a photograph.
Hey, Karen, give us a thumbs up. All
Put
right.
it in the chat.
Thank you very much. Okay, so a couple of cyber jokes, right? Even comics. I always taught my children the wisdom of the comics. I think comics have a lot of interesting wisdom in it. It's one of the reasons when I moved here 30 some odd years ago, I started getting, there was the Washington Times and there was the Washington Post. And I got the Post because it had, at that time, 3 pages of comics. The Times only had 1. So, it's only 2 pages of comics now. But, hey, this week they started colorizing, so they look kind of pretty this week. And on the wall here, and those of you remote can see, this is over the last, since I decided to do this class about 3 months ago, I've been clipping articles out of the Washington Post. It's kind of interesting to see all the titles. Some of them are scams. Like this one here, I used to live in Montgomery County. $6 million in gold, or $7 million in gold has been taken from seniors. Everybody know Montgomery County Leisure World is they got $7 million worth of gold from people that live in Leisure World. They did an elaborate scam where they called them, knew enough about it, convinced them their bank was not safe and they should convert the money to gold. And once they converted the money to gold, they said, hey, you probably don't want to keep it in your home, so we'll come and we'll store it for you safely.
Oh.
And can you imagine there was 6 people.
They
7
came
million.
and took the.
They came and would meet them in parking lots and take the gold and store it safely for them. Yeah. And so one person, after they'd been through the first round and given about $250,000, said, this doesn't seem right. And they called the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, or Police Department, and they did a sting operation. So they said, I'm going to give you some more, and they came. And it turns out the guy was just a messenger. He got 1% of the deal.
And they weren't able to catch the.
No, because it was in India. It was being run out of India.
There'll be layers of messengers. So you'll bring the gold to me, and I don't know anything. I give it to her, she gives it to him, we give it to him, we give it to him.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see all the different things that are going on. Then there's, of course, we've all gotten over the years the Nigerian prince, right? Who, well, it turns out there's all the money he tried to give away, and nobody would answer his emails. Snapchat. So, avoiding crafty security thing. We're going to talk about some additional things based, building on what Detective Thacker talked about last week. And we're going to talk a little bit about protecting yourself and others and some trusted resources. Please stop me if I go too fast. I'm a New Yorker. I talking too quickly, and I do kind of have a lot of material. So, and I will make the slides available. So you'll have, and there's some links and things like that in there. Any particular questions you have from last week? I know we've been kind of talking a little bit, or anybody online, if you have some questions or items from last week that weren't clear or you want further information on. So if you do, please interrupt as we're going along. I want you to be clear because I am going to talk about some kind of technical things. And if you're not clear about it, ask me and I'll go back and elaborate in more detail. So I've got a little survey that I'd like each of you to fill out, and it's basically, and it's anonymous. You don't put your name or any identity information in. I'm going to use the results to.
Want to do that now?
Yeah, you can do it while you're doing it. Matter of fact, just if you have a question or two, it might be, we can go over it, because in the next slide, I'm going to explain something regarding this. But what I'm going to use is, since there's so many different, as you can see from the sheet, there are so many different devices and applications and so on. Next week, we can't talk about everything, so I want to see what the highest usage is. And that'll be what I'll try to focus and study up on, or get some help for. So this survey, what I'm asking about are devices, right? So your phone, your laptop, or your desktop computer, and then what kind of social media apps you use. The social media apps are really important. Like Facebook has different levels of security. I mean, I got scammed through Facebook twice. So one time I got a phone call from ostensibly my nephew. He was in Florida and had an accident. I knew he lived in Texas. He was on assignment. He was with the Air Force. And he'd had an accident. He needed $3,000 to take care of it. Uncle Doug, can you help me out? I don't want mom and dad to know. And it sounded like him. I didn't talk to him that often. But red flag went up, and I asked him, I said, so tell me, I'll be glad to send you the money. Absolutely glad to help you out. But you got to tell me what street you lived on when you were 5 years old. I figured if somebody scammed me, the other information we shared, you could have gotten from my Facebook page and my nephew's Facebook page. Immediately hung up. So, I was able to filter that. But in reality, I should have never even let it go on that far. But uncle, nice guy, want to be good, and they pull at your heartstrings. And then the other time, I just recently got scammed where somebody took and cloned my website page. Now, on my website page, I have it as Douglas Holly, but everybody calls me Doug. And they cloned it. They took my picture. They took something. And they said Doug Holly. So it was almost exactly the same. But then they took all my friends and they sent them a friend request. And so a couple of them followed it. A couple of them said, no, I'm already friends with Doug. This can't be right. And they reported it and I reported it. But in the interim, the people who did friend requests, they then sent requests out for money, saying, hey, I need some cash. Could you Venmo me?
Was that your website or your Facebook page?
This was my Facebook page.
Oh, okay.
So they cloned my Facebook page, and it did look like me. It used. To be honest, the truth is, I don't use Facebook very often. I haven't changed it in 8 years, so it'd be pretty easy to. It's pretty static.
I don't use mine either much, but I'm getting a lot of requests, not a lot, but a number of requests, can I be your friend? I don't know who you are. I mean, of course, I'm not doing anything, but.
Yeah, I get a lot of requests from these really gorgeous young women. And I know they're not right. So, yeah.
So that could be scam.
Oh, absolutely, right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good rule. Like, you should know the person.
Yeah.
And even if you know the person, right, it's good to maybe check. Like I said, people were getting friend requests from me, and like I said, I'm not that active on Facebook.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I'm not on Facebook, and I had been scammed that way. They got my whole list of people, sent it out, telling them I needed some gift cards because I couldn't get out to do it. And I don't know where they would have gotten that, because I had people calling me
Wow.
to check on me. And
Interesting.
but I didn't know,
Right.
go back to my computer guy,
Contact list.
but I don't know where it came from, and
Huh.
or ever who it was.
Yeah.
Do you use Nextdoor?
Do you,
Do you use Nextdoor?
are you familiar?
I don't use too many different things, because I'm not really tech savvy.
But I mean, I have a friend, John Snyder, and about every other month I get a thing from, hey, I found some new pictures I thought you might be interested in, right? Yeah, it's not John. Yeah,
I have Jackie says, I'm hoping we can discuss more about the necessity, pros and cons of freezing your credit reports.
we are gonna talk about that.
Is this necessary if you're frequently viewing your bank accounts and credit cards, which also have protection against fraud?
Good point. So hold that. If I don't address it exactly the way you want, ask me a question when I do, but we are gonna talk about that. Thanks, Jackie. There's a social media and there's ways to make that more secure. And then there's browsers and email and so on. And this is gonna get a little bit technical, but I want you to kind of understand the complexity of what we're dealing with, all right? So you all have devices. Those are the things that you interact with. That's how you interact with the computer, the internet, the world. The laptops, desktops, your TV, right, has internet connection. And each of these devices, in order to work, has some software in it called an operating system. And the operating system is specifically tied to the device. It works in the guts of the device and it's intimately. So, for instance, Apple iPhone uses iOS. The MacBook, I happen to be an all Apple guy, which is strange for a guy who used to work for 17 years for IBM. And I was an IBM guy for many years. But Mac OS is the operating system on the laptop. It's different. Android, a lot of us have Android. Galaxy is, the Samsung phones are really good, and they work on the Android system. And then there's Windows, right? Microsoft. So a lot of us on our desktops. My wife has a Surface, and that has the Windows operating system. And so that's kind of the core that runs the, you just want to kind of check off the things. I'm going to collect those, so I don't need any identifying information. But then the operating system talks between the hardware and the tools that you actually use to do something fun or functional on the device. And so there's three main things, there are more, but there are three main things that we all deal with. One is a web browser, right? We open up a web browser and that lets us go out into the internet. And then we can use search engines like Google to search for something. We can go to web pages, for instance, if we were interested in going on Pinterest and looking something up or pinning something to it, or to Amazon to buy something, right? We would go to those different services by usually a web browser, or you can actually access your email through a web browser. Okay? Everybody following? You don't have to know it in depth. I just want you to understand and appreciate the big picture because it's tied to the survey. Also, a lot of us have on our devices an email client. For instance, I have Outlook. Here it's an Outlook email. And it lets me, read my emails, keep my calendar, and so on. So instead of going through the web browser, it actually loads the emails onto my phone, and I can work with them. And a lot of computers have that. Your iPad or your tablet can have that. So there's email client. And then there's the applications, the things that do things for you. So your camera. How many of you use Waze or Google to navigate, right? How about, do people use WhatsApp? WhatsApp, yeah. How many use, I have a daughter who lives in Belgium. I get to talk to her all the time, talk to her on video all the time for free on WhatsApp. WhatsApp's pretty nice because it's encoded, it's encrypted end-to-end. TikTok, Pinterest, right? All these are apps that let you do things. So there's a little piece of software that's running on your device that's managing that and then talking out through the internet to the rest of the world. Okay? So those are the different things. And I want you to be aware because each of them have their own security settings. Right? And once it's set up, yeah.
How do you know whether you have the web browser email or the email client?
So, if, for instance, on my phone, I have a little mail thing on the lower corner, that's a client, and it opens up the email. If you open up your web browser, like if I was to go into Safari, I have Safari. If I was to go into Safari and there's a link where I can type in a URL, right? Remember URLs, right? I can get to my email that way also. Most people do not, I would say most of you do not use that. I have a business.
Is Gmail, is Google a web browser email service? Because it's all combined.
So Google, you can access your emails both ways. You can get a client, it's the one with the little M on it, it's a circle with an M. That's the mail client, and you can access your Google Mail through that. But you can also go into a web browser. If you sign into your Google account, you have access to your Drive and your pictures and everything else. It will let you access your mail, and that's through the web browser.
So it's both.
It's both. Now, the beauty of Google, though, and I'm going to actually use Google as an example because a lot of people use it. They've got an integrated place where you can do your security settings, and they have a really nice tool that guides you through it. Make sense? Questions? All right. So, little background information. You don't have to have the details, but you can see it's a little bit complicated. So it's something to think about. And this is one of the things where simplicity is maybe in your favor. The less things you have, the less apps, the less websites, and so on, the less to worry about. I want to talk about a variety of different things. And one of the things I want to talk about is a password saver. So a lot of us, we have a book and we write down Facebook, my user ID, my password, right? And that's a great way, right? Because it's just, you have it, you keep that book in a safe place, and you don't have to worry about it. But I have probably 300 different, I've got a business, so I've got tons, and also I'm a little on the lazy side. I, for the longest time, used the same password on all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So I use Apple Keychain, and I keep all my passwords in that. And the beauty of that is it creates, stores, and fills in my password. So if I go to a website, it recognizes it. It puts my username in there. It also recognizes it that it's a legitimate site. And it also puts the password in there. And then when it's time to update my password, it suggests a really strong password. So where it's a convenience if I have lots of passwords and if you tend to reuse or use simple passwords, because it will let you do it differently. Yeah.
Now, have you found that 100%? Because I've been doing that with Google.
Yep.
And oh my gosh, I get to something in there, it doesn't recognize that password.
So I do. So there are some sites where it doesn't work. I have used Google on the Chrome, right, and that actually works really well. But absolutely, there are times when it doesn't.
Write it down somewhere.
Those you would have to write down. And I'm going to talk more about that. But it's a nice tool. These are all legitimate services. These are well-known, named password savers. The one that comes on, if you use the Chrome browser, the one that's built into that, it's free. The one Keychain, if you're an Apple, it's free. The Norton one, you buy a service and it comes with a bunch of things. I'll talk more about that. But these others, I think there's a chance. They've proven to be relatively safe. There was a time, if you've heard, it's not LastPass. It was there was one of these, and I didn't list it, that did get hacked. But they quickly let people know so people could go in and change their passwords. Okay? So password savers can be an interesting tool, and they're usually pretty easy to set up. They walk you through it. Yes?
John, what is the difference between Keychain Apple and passwords on Apple?
So password is the new thing,
Oh, okay.
and it just came out with 18. And it basically is a wraparound, keychain is actually embedded in it, and it makes it a simpler user interface. Because that's one of my complaints, keychain's a little cumbersome to use, but password is supposed to, I haven't, so I try to keep my software current with all the updates, but I usually wait a week. Because I got burned one time where there was a bug and it locked up my computer. And so I usually wait a week and I look to see how many complaints there are. When complaints die down, then I go to do an update.
So that's not one password that you.
No, I'm sorry. So these are 6 different things.
Right, I mean,
Right.
but password, that one password is not the Apple password?
No, 1Password is another application,
Okay.
just like Norton.
Wait, when you go to a particular, I'm on a fire.
Oh, you're on fire?
Particular sites, you can save that password, it'll come up automatically.
Right.
Who's doing the saving? Is it the site or
Your
is it
internet
the?
browser. Your internet browser.
Your browser.
My internet browser.
If you're using Google Chrome, when you log
Yeah.
onto your Facebook, let's say, and your username and your password right there, that's Google Chrome saving that for you. Try to
It's Google,
make it
and
easier
they
for you.
recognize the site I'm on.
Yes.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And that's the beauty of that, that it recognizes the site. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. So, and now Keychain gives you the option to save it in the cloud. So this I use, like I said, I'm a Mac, so I got the watch, the phone, the iPad, and the tablet, or the MacBook. And the passwords, if I change it on my phone, it gets changed on everything. But if you just basically use one device, you can keep it right on your device, which is a more secure way to do it. Okay? Other questions? Good. A little password tip for you, right? Make sure someone you trust knows how to access your passwords. We just had a friend and her husband passed away and he handled all this stuff and she is going through a real pain in the neck trying to get access to the bank and stuff like that because she didn't know how to get into his laptop. He used the password saver and she can't get to it. So like in my case, my daughter who lives here in Columbia, she knows how to get to my passwords and knows how to get, so if something should happen to me, she can get into my computer and she can help my wife take care of things.
They also had me sign up my financial people with Legacy, so that it's assigned to my attorney.
Yes, that's a good way to do that.
That's a great tip. We see that all the time.
Yeah.
When we handle death investigations, families have no idea. They blocked out all the Facebook photos or the whatevers, the emails, blocked out everything.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If your house was to burn, we're all old enough. If our house was to catch fire, what's the first thing we go get? The photo albums, right? Well, the same thing here. You have all these great memories, and it's behind a password. So you want to make sure that if something happens, somebody else can get to them. Password saver. I want to take you through a little bit how Apple Keychain works. So as I said, it saves and it fills in the username and password. It makes sure the website name is correct. Everybody know about whitehouse.com? So during the Bill Clinton administration, and not for the reason that you're thinking, somebody bought the whitehouse.com internet site. Now, what is the official website address for the White House?
.gov.
It's .gov, right. So what happened if you went to whitehouse.com? Went to a porn site. So, and I did check it yesterday, and now it takes you to a gambling site. So,
As a middle school teacher when that happened.
oh yeah, that must
I
have
saw
been fun.
that
I
way too many times.
never even thought
I
about
think
that.
every preteen boy knew that, yeah.
Yep. So the beauty of this is it won't put your username in there unless the URL is the one that's legitimate. So it has like 3 layers of protection. you wanna, it'll create your password for you, and they're very hard to crack. It notifies you if your password is found on the dark web and other in data releases. So you'll notice on mine, it says security recommendations. It has found either my username or my password out on the web, and it's got 23 now. I will tell you, about 3 months ago, I had 200, and I've been whittling them down, going through and changing. This is where I used to use the same password. So I've just got a handful left. Then I'm working down. So it monitors for you and tells you, hey, you need to change this. And then it has a different file for each application you use. They're in alphabetical order, like AARP, right? So I'm an AARP member, and if I go to sign on their website, it fills in the username, fills in the password, and gets me on the site. And I can go in and change it. It's got a nice little feature. You push on the eye, it opens up a window, and you can go in and you can say, hey, I want to change the password. It'll take you right there and help you do that.
When you say that the password, it notifies you that the password's found on the dark web. Like I use LastPass, and so all my passwords are encrypted. So LastPass doesn't know any of my passwords. It's just encrypted, right? So I don't quite understand that.
So I don't know if LastPass has that feature then.
Okay.
Now, I mean, they're encrypted out on the cloud. Apple can't see them, but the software, the way they set it up, is they go out and monitor what's showing up in the dark web. So like they had Doug Holly, Gmail, and my password. And I had another notification service that came and told me it was found. And it popped up here that, hey,
Okay. I'll look into it.
so.
Do you know if Google has it?
I was just gonna say, Google Chrome does the same thing, except not 1Password. So you know how we talked before, Google Chrome will save your password? You can also get to all of this information that Doug's showing you. It'll tell you what's been on, if you've shown up on the dark web, apps that.
It'll just
what's that
pop
called?
up.
No,
No,
you
it doesn't
have,
pop up. You have to go in and look at it.
you have to go in and look at it.
Right, so I go in and look.
What's it called? I'm sorry.
Google Chrome.
Google,
If you use
use that
Google Chrome
browser.
as your browser,
Yeah.
it has all that information, you just have to go into your settings and then
So-
you can find it.
Right, so what I did was, I don't have it, but I went into the password, the Apple keychain, which keeps the passwords, and it brought up this window. And then it lets me dig in, and in that, it tells me that it found. Okay, and then some of those are like stuff that I did one time or something like that I don't really care about, and I didn't put any information on it. Like I said, I'm in business. Sometimes there's if you want this article, you got to give us your email address and sign in. So I do that, and I create a one-time thing. I get the article, and then I don't care. And that's what a lot of those are. And I said fairly easy to use, but I think it was the new thing that Apple just in their new release updated Apple keychain to password, and it should be. I understand it's easier to use. Have you used?
I don't think I've got the new one. I think my passwords is still,
Yeah. So.
I mean, I've had it for a long time.
Oh,
This is
okay.
not a new, but it's under settings and it just says password.
Oh, it does because that's what it's for. If you go into it, it's being stored in Apple keychain.
Okay, all right.
But if you do the update to 18,
I have done that. I find it easy to use, but I have found it pretty easy to use.
and it doesn't work for every site. I have had sites where it's a problem, but then I can go and if for instance, if I go to use my wife's Surface and I want to sign into something, I can't access, but then on my phone, I can open up the keychain and I can touch on the eye and I can see the password and then I can go type it in. Now, the problem is,
They're long.
with Apple, they're like 24 characters, so I gotta make sure I type it right, takes me about 3 tries.
Can you copy and paste those?
Well, it's 2 different devices. So my wife's Surface is right, I can't do that. So then there's a thing that Detective Thacker told me about, and I hadn't really seen this, but it's pretty cool. It's called a password checker. So if you want to create passwords and you want to see how secure they are, now there's a lot of them out there. I happen to know NordPass is a reputable company, and so their link onto there. And so I went and put just a random password in there, and it told me it was strong. It would take 3 years to crack. This is the criteria that it met. And the other thing it says it didn't find any leaks in that password. Okay.
So why is the 3 year?
Well, so
How does that get you up there?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know exactly, but obviously, right, if I use a one-character password, right, there's 26 letters in the alphabet and 9 numbers, it would take me a minute or two to figure it out. They have some algorithm that says how fast a computer trying to calculate and slam in different passwords would take to find it. This one's so complex.
Yeah, but don't most of these things, right, like if you go 3 tries or something like that, miss. I mean, how can the computer do even 26 tries, and get away with it, whereas if I miss my password 23 times,
Yeah.
it's better.
I don't know if you know the answer. I did not know the answer.
You got, it's called attempts per minute. So it's things the scammers use to try to break into your account, right? So certain accounts, like your iPhone, if you try to log in a couple times and you mess it up, you have to wait 5 minutes before you try again, right? There's that extra layer of security. Some accounts don't have that. You can sit there and try until forever. And so computers can do, it's called attempts per minute when you're breaking into an account. How many attempts per minute can I make to break in? So the more digits your password is, the more number of attempts your password could be, right? Because one digit, like he said, could be A to Z or it could be 0 to 9. Now when you have 2 digits, now it could be A to Z 0 to 9, A to Z 0 to 9. So you multiply. So the more digits you make your password, the longer and longer and longer it would take a computer to break your password. And these computers can do thousands of attempts per minute on your password. So the longer you make your password, the more secure you are versus somebody trying to hack into your stuff.
Which explains why we have to have longer passwords now than we did several years ago.
A lot of websites will make you, they won't even let you have a password that doesn't have a capital letter or a symbol or isn't however many characters
12
long.
characters.
Yeah.
It used to be 6 characters, and it was 8 characters.
So that's why that is.
So there's a way you can check passwords and seeing how you're doing. So this one is my name, Doug. And this password's been exposed 223 times, and it was weak. It takes less than a second. Now, this one, you can see it's more characters. This password's been exposed 711,000 times.
Password.
Password. That's exactly what it is. It's the most commonly used password. So it's something interesting to play around with, to raise your sensitivity to these kinds of concerns. Okay, somebody asked about a VPN.
Yeah.
There you go. So, does anybody know what a VPN is? Okay. So let me explain to you. And I used a picture of an airport for a specific reason. Okay. So virtual private network, it's a way to make the data secure when it's going through the RF link from your phone. Like right now, I'm linked to the Wi-Fi here at the Y on my phone. So I don't have to use my carrier data. I can send and receive things through the Wi-Fi here at the YMCA because I have a sign-in with them. I've got a VPN turned on, which means that it's encrypted when it's traveling through the Wi-Fi. So it encrypts your internet traffic so somebody can't read it. It also hides your IP address, which is the identifier for your device. And it prevents being able to trace your location, your identity, or to find out what you're doing online. So it holds something secure, okay? And
Can you set that permanently? Is that a setting that can be
Yeah.
turned on?
You can. And I'm gonna talk a little bit more about the good question. So basically what it looks like is, here I am, here at the Y, and I'm talking to the internet through the Wi-Fi, and then there's a router out there here at the Y that then ties into probably fiber optic cable for Eastern Utilities that gets you into the internet. And it encrypts it on my device and it sends out encrypted data, and then at the other end it unencrypts it when it gets there, so that it's all the time that it's out here, it's safe. And so hackers and snoopers can't get in, because if you're texting straight text, it's in the open, in the sense that in the Wi-Fi, if somebody has a device and can watch it, they can actually see what you're texting back and forth. Some emails and servers do, some don't. WhatsApp encrypts. Zoom encrypts, but not all of them do encrypt.
Signal is a messaging and
Right.
video, yeah.
So that encrypts. So some do, but some don't. But the VPN protects it in all.
How do you get the VPN?
We'll talk about it. So I just want a little bit more, and I'm an engineer, so I apologize for all the technical stuff. But so you can kind of see how it works. And I want to make a point. I had an airplane picture. An airport is a very common place for hackers and snoopers to try and get it. So, BWI or BWI? Can you tell the difference?
One's an L.
So one of them.
That's a lowercase l. That's BWL. But if you were at the airport and you were signing onto their network and it said BWI Wi-Fi or BWL Wi-Fi, I mean, think about how little that is, right? And so they do things like that to get you into the wrong network. But if you're using a VPN, it's encrypted. So even if it goes through them, they can't see it. Okay? Now, so you always want to make sure you're connecting to a legitimate Wi-Fi network. Scammers can set up fake network if you're not going to use a VPN. So, I mean, if like at the Y, I trust it here. I come here and I've already got it so that it automatically connects and I know it's connected to the right one. So I know that's happening. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody couldn't come here or sit outside in the parking lot in their car with a similar to the Y and fool me. But because it's automatic and I've already set it in, it's not really a problem. Like anything, the one thing I want to say, there's no way it's 100% secure. It's a risk-reward thing. How much work do you want to do to be a little bit safer? A lot of the things that we're talking about get you a long way there and reduce your risk significantly. You can't make it go away. You want to, if you're on your home network, so this is what you have at your house, right? You have Eastern Utilities that brings the internet to your home. It's wired. And they connect into a router that's at your house, and it gives you your TV, and it also gives you your internet service. And that router then converts it to Wi-Fi. Does anybody not use Wi-Fi at home? Anybody online? So everybody uses Wi-Fi. Okay. And I mean, it's really convenient, right? And so you've got your PC, your laptop, your printer, your phone. You know, your friends come over and say, hey, what's your Wi-Fi password, right? And so on. So at home, and assuming you have a security on it, Web3 or something like that, and you put passwords on it, then you're relatively safe and probably don't need a VPN there either. The one thing that Detective Farragut mentioned to me was don't use identifying information to name your network. So I wouldn't name my router Holly, right? Because then if somebody driving by, they can sniff the routers and they know, oh, Holly, that one. So they know what the router is. One more way for them to help try to get into.
One of my neighbors.
So,
Their last name, yeah.
right, that's what a lot of people do. I just leave it whatever, Netgear, 53 or
This is the
whatever.
land before time.
There we go. So that's how it works. We did that.
So what's the, Are you gonna say why you shouldn't have VPN all the time?
Well, so the downside of VPN is a couple things. Some services, like my Verizon, I have Verizon phone, they provide a VPN. But a lot of these services, they charge. There's like a cost for them.
And it's slower.
I was just
And
gonna
it
say,
slows things down.
That's the big one.
That's the big one. So it does slow things down. So I do turn mine off and on. Actually, mine actually recommends, it says, oh, you're on an unsecured network, you turn on your VPN.
I don't know if, I have a Google Pixel and it's not the latest model, it's a couple years old, but I'm always on VPN. It's automatic.
Right.
It's part of their settings. So I don't know if newer phones are gonna start, at least Android might start coming out like that.
So where do you find the VPN on your phone?
Good question. So on my phone, and there's a sample VPN setup. If I go into my settings, and so this is a screenshot of my settings, and this is my personal home Wi-Fi, and down at the bottom, there's a setting that actually asks VPN. And then it brings up this screen. Now, I happen to use a VPN through Norton. As part of I have a Norton suite of utilities. So Norton Mobile Security, and like right here, wait a minute, I get it. There's two different ones. So yeah, the VPN, it's connected. So I have two. So I remember I said that Verizon. Verizon provides a VPN. I can also do it through Norton. Now the Norton one will actually let me pick the country. And I'll explain why that's interesting in a minute. But there's going to be a thing in settings that's going to let you go in and select VPN. And if it doesn't, you might have to purchase some software like NordVPN or some others that will put a VPN on your phone for you. Yeah, I don't think Apple has it. I think mine is because, who's your carrier?
Verizon, so it's not, no, Verizon.
Verizon? And you don't have,
There's free and paid ones. We see them
yeah.
in almost every fraud case, the bad guys.
If you could search your settings, you might want to search for it. It should be an internet or permissions or something.
So maybe we'll try to figure that one out next week. I think, I gotta say, it's a little bit of a nice to have, because here's the other thing. You don't need to, if you have unlimited data on your phone, and you always connect through your carrier, you don't need a VPN, because that connects to a different network, it's your carrier's network, and that is secure. That's not Wi-Fi. Remember, your phone actually has 3 radios in it. It has the radio that talks to your carrier, and that's how you make cell phone calls, and you get text messages, and that's through the carrier. And you can also get data that way. You also have Wi-Fi, which is a different radio and a different frequency, and it's a more local that you use in your home network. And then there's Bluetooth, which is a third radio, operates on a different frequency, and that's for very local. You may be using 20 or 30 feet away, but it's usually used for your earphones. Right? So there's 3 different radios, so there's 3 different things. We're talking about Wi-Fi in terms of VPN. If you're using your carrier, your Verizon service, your T-Mobile service, your AT&T service, or consumer cellular service for your data, and you're not connecting to Wi-Fi, then you don't have to worry about VPN.
Say that again?
If you use your carrier service for your data,
You're not linked to Wi-Fi.
you're not hooked to Wi-Fi, you're through your carrier. So AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, consumer cellular, any of those, if you're using your data through them, you're not using your Wi-Fi, and VPN doesn't do anything for you. So you don't need a VPN. So if you don't use a lot of data, and you're gonna use your carrier for all your, downloading pictures, uploading pictures, sending text messages, doing WhatsApp, then you don't need a VPN. VPN is only needed on Wi-Fi, and the reason I did this diagram with your home, because in your home, and if you've got security on it, the password protected, you don't need a VPN at home either. So the VPN is kind of a nice to have in certain circumstances. I wouldn't go through the hassle unless, I travel a lot. Like when I go to Europe, I bring a card over that I use. I don't use Verizon because it's $10 a day. And I go for usually a couple of weeks. So when I first get to the airport, I'll use the local Brussels airport Wi-Fi and text my kids and say, hey, I'm here, and I'll be going through security in an hour or two, whatever it may be. And so that way having a VPN is good, but I get a certain circumstance, right? Does that make sense?
Do I understand this correctly? It is only really necessary if you're using Wi-Fi and not your at-home Wi-Fi.
Or a Wi-Fi that you don't know.
Right, because like, say you went over to your child's, assuming
If I
house.
never change my phone to Wi-Fi except at home,
Oh, okay.
then I don't need,
You don't need VPN,
okay.
right?
Well, just be careful because some app, like if your phone scans for Wi-Fi, it can turn back on its own. Certain apps will do that. There's a setting you have to
It won't connect without you. It'll look.
It'll
It'll
look,
see, but it won't connect without asking.
yeah, I've
The
never
only
seen
time
that.
I've had it
Well,
connect is if I put it in
It's
prior.
familiar.
Yeah, and then it does, but not the way she.
Right. That's what
That's what you
had
had
done.
done.
When you went into Kohl's and you connected,
Right,
and then
it might
shut
suggest.
off Wi-Fi,
Best
it would turn
advice
back
is-
on the next time you go.
Don't be connecting to public or free.
Wow.
Wi-Fi.
Yes,
the best
that's what
advice.
I.
To avoid all of this.
Okay,
Doug, I can understand what you use when you travel, and why don't you use WhatsApp?
I do use WhatsApp, but it needs data. Right, and so when I get off the plane, if I haven't put a SIM card in for Belgium, I use the local Wi-Fi, but since I have a VPN on, I don't have to worry about it. And then I can use the Wi-Fi at the airport to text my daughter that I'm there and what my status is getting out of the airport.
Otherwise you pay $10 a day for
Right.
data.
Verizon charges $10 a day to make my phone work like it works here, but in Belgium. So what I do is I buy a SIM card because I usually go for about 2.5 weeks. So that would end up being $150.
So you get to Belgium and buy a SIM card?
Well, I have one that I bring with me now.
I sell them at the airports too.
Yeah, they sell them at the airports, and then I slip it in, and it gives me a new phone number, but it converts, my WhatsApp then starts to work, and then I can just WhatsApp through the data to the SIM card.
So do you have a SIM card here in your phone?
Yeah, I have a US SIM card.
Okay, so
That's the Verizon SIM card.
so you have to ask for a SIM card for Belgium?
I get a in Europe, it's the whole Europe is one, but I get a SIM card that I use.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it saves a lot of
So
money.
even with WhatsApp, you need to have that SIM card?
If you're not gonna use Wi-Fi. Yeah. So it gives you great flexibility.
And so there's a European carrier then that you're paying for data?
Yeah, it goes on the
That's part
Orange
of it.
network or to Belgium, whatever. And it's great. I mean, like I go to UK, I go to France. Once I'm there, it's great. It's just like being here, going from one state to another.
You're still paying somebody
Oh, yeah, so,
something.
but what happens is
Some
I
carrier.
can pay about $20
Yeah.
for enough data to last me for 2 weeks
Yeah.
versus $150
Got
if I pay Verizon.
So if you go, say, like my trip to Borneo, my daughter had WhatsApp,
Mhm.
and I don't think she got a SIM card.
She's probably
She was probably using Wi-Fi then.
At the hotel or wherever you
She
go.
was.
Oh, yeah, so then she was using Wi-Fi.
So that's why he's saying if you do that, use a VPN.
I might want to use VPN.
Okay. Verizon also has something for $100 a month So it's not $10 a day.
Oh, really?
Yes, we just
Oh.
used it.
Oh.
So
Oh,
keep that in
okay.
mind.
I was gonna say, you can just call them and say, I'm gonna be gone from this date to this date.
Well, I
And
do
it's
that.
a lot cheaper than $10 a day.
Yeah, if you do it for the month.
Oh, okay, I had not seen that. Because the beauty of keeping your regular number and stuff is two-factor authentication. Because if you have that SIM card in, it's a different phone number, it's a different phone, and two-factor authentication doesn't work. So you need to get it, so let's not get
That's
too.
your bank number, see?
Yeah. So, and that's why I said, how important, when in a public space, it's something to consider. And there are people, like, there's one article here that says even in a public space, the likelihood, if you're careful to sign on to the right Wi-Fi, is not really that big of a concern. But, it depends on, risk reward. So, yeah, so if you guys have already asked questions and basically answered these questions. Oh, that's the other thing. If you're using your laptop and you want to use public Wi-Fi, like you go to Panera, right? Or you go to and you bring out your laptop, it's got to communicate on Wi-Fi. Now there are iPads that work with the carrier, but most laptops, the only way it can talk, and so you might consider a VPN for your laptop. But quite frankly, I don't know that you gotta be overly worried about it. But it's something to keep in mind, particularly if you're doing, I wouldn't do banking information from Panera or something like that. And I'd be careful about what I do. The other benefit is so when we're in Belgium, if I want to watch some movies on Netflix that are only available in the US, I can go on my VPN and make it look like I'm in the US. And then I can watch them, but if it detects that I'm in Belgium, it won't let me see them because it doesn't have the copyright to show me. And the same with my daughter, who lives there, right? She's able to watch movies and stuff by selecting what country she makes the VPN terminate. You can actually go in and adjust that.
What he just talked about is how the scammers show that they're calling from Baltimore, Easton too.
Right.
When you see that information, they're using that same thing to change their location to be where you are.
And use local
Yes,
numbers.
local
Yes.
numbers, same type of thing.
Yeah.
So they're trying to use that back against you, and then also to help hide themselves from us.
I actually had a call one time with my own number. Never done it, still.
Never heard that.
Just like talking.
My number.
Make a mistake.
Did you answer?
So the other thing to think about is our virus scanners. This used to be a lot more popular years ago, but it's software that you put on your computer and you run it every once in a while, and it goes through and looks at all your files, and it sees if there's any viruses. And viruses are things that go and kind of screw up your computer, slow down your performance, annoying, or malware. Malware is trying to steal your information. And it goes and tries to find those, and it will help you clear them up. Microsoft Defender, if you use the Microsoft software package that you get that free, Malwarebytes has the free version also, which is good. And then there's other ones like Clean My Mac and Bitdefender, Norton, and I happen to use Norton. And I've used McAfee, both good ones. And the other nice thing about this is they're getting constant updates because viruses are coming out every day. So they get updates, so they always have the latest files, they know the most current ones. And it also, if you set it up right, it will monitor data that's coming in and out of your computer. So it can provide some other services like phishing protection. So let me explain what happened to me the other day. Here I am, right? I'm preparing this class on scanning. I get an email from a guy I'm working with, and he's sending me over a file. It looked right. I clicked on the file, and the Norton immediately popped up and said, "Whoa, this is a phishing scheme." and it stopped me from opening the file. So, you can get that kind of protection. Now, it was dumb on my part because I know the guy and everything, but I didn't know whether he really was or wasn't sending. I should have sent him an email and said, hey, did you send me a file? But they also can provide a firewall. There's a lot of different ways in the internet link. There's different things called ports and stuff. And a firewall helps shut those down and make it harder for people to go in. And like my Norton one provides VPN, so I use the VPN on my laptop and my iPad. And it also has this unsafe website detection. So if you type, whitehouse.com, and you're looking, well, that one is, even though it's a betting site, so it's still a legitimate site. But if it was a site that scammers are using to capture your information and stuff like that, it's offering you like it's free super betting service, can't lose. It's probably fraud. It'll pop if you go into that site. It'll pop up and stop and say no. It says this is a known malicious site. You can continue if you wish at your own risk, but it gives you that warning. So it's kind of a nice service, especially if you fat finger the URL, right? You type in what you think it is, and they're one off, like BWI or BWL.
I've typed in malware bytes before instead of mal, but an E after the L, and my software caught it, yeah.
There you go.
Just on Norton Utilities, I keep getting add-ons, requests for
Oh.
add-ons and add-ons
They're a
and
pain in the
updates. And
Oh, yeah.
did the regular Norton catch that? Or do you have all of those updates?
So, I don't know whether I showed it already, but it actually showed Norton as being one of the, no, I haven't, you'll see in a minute.
Okay.
Safari caught it.
Oh, okay.
So kind of understand first, once again, do you have to have this? If you're a pretty safe user, okay, get in the word.
You should have,
Yeah, okay.
it comes
Like I
free
said-
with your computer, just cut it
Yeah,
off.
they-
Yeah.
Comes on, just leave it on.
Is it still true that, Apple's got great firewall protection?
I know, but it's just a free layer. Most of these come with the computer.
No, Apple, that used to be true.
I think they've only been,
No, they've been hacked.
they've had one virus.
Because no, much more. That was, yeah, because they're a big target now because of that. They actually became a target. So yeah, no, that's why, like I said, all Apple do, and I do have Norton, and I take care of those things. Security settings. Okay, we're gonna talk about banks and financial institutions. It is your money. They want it. You need to protect it, right? That's the mantra. So banking and finance sites are a special case on security settings that I think you absolutely have to focus on. And obviously, the things that we've talked about previously, strong password, and consider where you keep your password isn't secure. So, if you have it someplace, you don't want to keep it in a notebook on a kitchen table, right? Place it somewhere in your house where it's not obvious. Two-factor authentication, almost all financial institutions, well, if they don't demand it, they will definitely offer the opportunity. And if you need help setting up two-factor authentication, we can do that next week. And also, I just learned this, and that was pretty cool. Use a different email only for your financial sites. And that provides an extra layer, that becomes a different username, because I'm doug.holly@gmail.com. So I communicate with all of you on that, I communicate with my friends and so on, and so that's the username for a lot of my websites. But if I created it's easy, right? I go into Gmail and say I want a new email. It'll give me another email address, and I can do it, and I only use it on the financial sites. And now bad guys have to figure out what the username is because it's no longer doug.holly@gmail.com. Right? So that's kind of an interesting technique. Don't have to do it, but it gives you an extra layer of security. But it also gets you so that you're getting your financial information not cluttered up with all the other crap. comes into your normal inbox. So,
That's a really good one. He just went over, because instead of the bad guys just having to guess your password, they now have to guess your username and your password. So that's that double layer.
Also, I noticed that a lot of banking and financial companies on their own are using a second verification.
right, that's the
I
two-factor
do it all the time. I'll
authentication.
send you a message or an email, you know, you have on file with us.
Right, and that's what two-factor authentication is. So we're gonna,
I was gonna say, Shore doesn't do that. At least
no, not yet.
I know, that's.
Oh, they don't?
Smaller local banks.
But sure,
You can probably request it.
They have two-factor authentication?
oh, they do?
Yeah, mine started up.
I just
Several
got
months
notice.
ago.
Mine does, you know,
I'm sorry?
I noticed from Shore United that I hadn't gone into my,
Oh.
my,
Thank you.
my account for more than 40 days. Well, I don't wanna use it. This is a chunk of money, I don't want it.
Right.
But, you know, you have to, and I had to give 2 answers to my security questions.
that's not true,
Is that-
authentic authentication. The security questions are
Different.
different,
That's different.
and those are much easier.
Scam,
Yeah.
right? We all know our mother's maiden name, right?
But not where you live, the
Right.
name of the street.
Well, and so it's interesting, on I had a friend who used to he decided early on, when they asked for, your mother's maiden name, he just made up some crazy answer that made no sense. And the city he was born in, he said Paris or something, and that way, like, there's no real, because if you go into somebody's ancestry.com, right, you can find an awful lot out about
You
it.
can go a step even further. So you set up the security questions with your mother's maiden name, you write barbershop. It has nothing to do with what your mother's maiden name is. It's completely separate. Nobody could ever guess that because it's not even a real answer to that question. But you would know that when it asks you.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I might not remember.
Well, that's the thing.
It's not really-
If you go to make that change,
The ease
make
versus.
sure you write it down and you're meticulous about it.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing, makes sense. If you don't really use online banking and stuff, don't set up the account.
They want you to.
Oh, they want you to because it's easier for them. But like my mother-in-law,
They want to go paperless.
she's got nothing.
Yeah, it saves them money, so they want you to do that.
Right. And financial companies recommend some security practices. Let me just show you something. So, we Bank of America, and so they have really done tech nicely. They've got this little, screen that scores you and gives you a visual indicator of how good your security is, and it tells you different things to do, and it walks you through to do them. There's one thing I haven't done, and that's, they want me to do online bill pay, which I don't know what it has to do with security, but, so my wife does not like to do that, so we don't do that. But it's really a nice little tool. I couldn't find a similar thing, I did look at, because we do bank at Shore Bank also, and, I couldn't find something for that, but I have not set up my online account either at Shore Bank.
But the thing that might change you, right, is they now, almost everybody puts on an added charge for a credit card, right? And so, it's gonna become more and more
Right.
pricey. If you don't bank, you don't send it in check or whatever they're calling it.
Yeah, there might be something like that happen. But the banks want you to be safe. And so many banks and many financial institutions provide really nice tools to help you, guide you through the process. The other thing is it happens, pop up a scam alert. And I opened up the scam alert to just kind of scan through it, and it basically was your presentation from last week. But it did point out something interesting that I had not thought about. One of the things that some scammers are doing, if you put in, and I think it's *21 plus a phone number, it will redirect your calls and texts to a different phone.
The sheriff's office, maybe?
That I wouldn't worry about, but I'm sure it's some other nefarious number. So, this is, the scammers get pretty, right? They actually convince people to change where their phone calls and things are going so that they can see and hear the call and see the text that you're doing. I mean, it's just, so
Isn't
this,
that a problem that the phone company could solve?
well, you have to solve it by not telling somebody,
They
not
want you
doing
to,
it. You have to
forward
physically
your
do it.
messages to another phone if you wanted
Oh,
to do that.
it's for you.
So they're offering that service in the
And
scammers.
the scammers are using it for
They'll
something.
get you on the line and they'll say, all right, sir, to enter your account to make sure it's really you, we need you to punch in **21 real quick. All right, next step, sir. Can you enter your phone number to verify it's really you? And then right there, you just took all the things that are supposed to come into you.
Yeah.
You're sending it out to them now, and then they got you on the hook.
Right, I mean,
It's that quick.
so that's why the banks all tell you, hey, we will not ask you to do these things on the phone. We'll have you come in and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, basically what you learn is nobody, if there's a problem, if you think, if somebody's notifying you of a problem, it's not by phone.
Right. And the beauty, that's going back to my early slide, right? We're trying to create in all of us awareness and resiliency because they're going to find all kinds of tricky ways to do things. We've got to be so that a red flag goes up. That, something's not right here. We have to be suspicious. We have to be curious, right? And be skeptical. That's our best defense.
You know, I did get a call the other day and they said it was the bank and I very curtly said, I'll think about it and check it out later and hung up. And I called the bank and it was them.
Well, they still do telemarketing.
But that's rare. You know,
Yeah,
that the bank
that's
will
got
call
pretty
like that.
So, so, security settings. So we talked about web browsers and search engines. One thing to think about, and I'll come back to this, is DuckDuck. Anybody heard of DuckDuckGo?
Yeah.
Right? So a good browser protects your private information when you're browsing. And the interesting thing I have found with this, when I do web searches, I sometimes get much better results because it's not doing all the fancy guessing what it thinks I want or sending me all these ads and stuff. So a lot of times when I'm doing research and things, I will go to DuckDuckGo to do the research because I get more insightful websites that I wouldn't normally see.
Is it that on Google to get to that? Or how-
No, so it's actually kind of a browser search engine, and you can load the app on your phone, or you can load it on your computer, or you can load it on your tablet, and you just go, instead of hitting Safari or Chrome, you hit DuckDuckGo, and you can search through it.
So under apps, you have to download the app.
You have to download the app.
You
You
can
can
also
actually
get
search
a,
for it on Google and download it.
Right, yeah,
And it's
Yeah,
a
I think that's what
free
she's
app?
asking.
and it's a free app.
Is it
you
slow?
can get a.
No, I have not found it too slow.
You can
Actually-
also, if you use Chrome, you can actually get a DuckDuckGo
Yeah,
add-in or whatever.
Plug-in.
extension.
Plug-in, yeah.
Actually, on the Fire, it gives you an option.
Oh, does
It's
it?
one of the three options they use is DuckDuckGo.
Okay. So it's a nice search engine.
You can do it on your phone and your computer.
So we're going to talk about web browsers and search engines a little bit. Once again, security settings. So once again, I'm going to use myself as an example, but it's similar for all the others. So the Google search engine, right? It's one we use, right? It's even becoming now. Just like when we were younger, used to, how did you make copies? You made a Xerox, right? Well, now we Google. We don't search anymore. And so you've got where you enter what you're looking for. So I'm looking for a good deal on sneakers, and you hit Google search and it goes and brings you things. Or if you don't know what you want to do, but you're trying something out, you just I'm feeling lucky, and sometimes. And then this happens to be a little game, actually. Google every day has a new little interesting icon. This one happens to be a game with popcorn. I actually played it last night. But you can see, this is my MacBook. These are different pages that I have in Safari. I use Safari. And then there's my account. So I have posted my picture on it. And here's the Gmail, right? I can go into here and see email. This would do it through the web browser. So you hit on your account. And when I hit on account, and I love this picture. This picture was taken almost 20 years ago, 30 pounds lighter, and I still had dark hair. So I haven't gotten rid of it. But anyway, it gives you all these interesting things. So one of the things is Safe Search. So you can turn that on and it filters. And so explicit things that unexpectedly you don't want to see and that kind of stuff, or especially like morbid stuff, things like that. It tries to filter out that kind of content. And so that's one of the things you can consider turning on. But if you go to more settings, it will bring up the activity, and it tells you, like in my case, I saved my search history because I want to go back and see for something I was looking at before, something like that. And I've got the Safe Search on, but then there's Google account settings. So remember I said the nice thing about Google is the mail, the web browser, the data, what's the data thing called for Google? Drive?
Oh, Google Drive.
Google Drive. They're integrated. And so you can go into the settings and you can set it, and it protects all of those tools. So you hit the Google account setting, and it brings up another web page, but and there's privacy and personalization. So manage your data and privacy. So you click on that. It actually gives you suggestions to how to make your site, your Google experience more safe. Now you got to be a little careful. Google makes their money by selling your data and stuff. So you got to kind of be a bit of a detective to find the right settings to limit stuff. They don't exactly make it easy, but you can navigate your way through there. And then they give you security tips because they do want you to be safe. They want to sell your data if they don't want scammers to get you. So you can go into these things, and now it starts to bring up more personalized data. So I'm not going to continue on. But this is how you get to the place where you can set the settings to be more secure, and you can get suggestions on how to protect yourself better. And
this is where it'll say if you've been found on the dark web, if your password's been found.
okay, right. And most browsers or search engines and browsers will have this kind of thing.
I was gonna say, I've seen that thing come up, it says, one of the security things that says, your stuff has been found on the dark web. What are you supposed to do?
You can follow it and it will it will tell you
Say
which.
your social security number.
No, it'll tell you what it was, like it was your password on this particular, from this particular site, it will tell you where that password is used. So if it's, like my Target account or what it will say, and I know that's the password that I use for, then I know I need to change that one. So it will tell you where it was, and then you should change it.
It's class 202, you have to come back next semester. It does get pretty sophisticated, so
It does.
it does give you some guides, it gets pretty complex. There are companies that you can pay a fee, and they will go and they will scrub your data. I think there's one I was looking at, it's $20 a month. They constantly go out, because you can request this information to be removed, and they're supposed to do that, and so they do it. But the other thing is, when you see something like, if your information has been released, then you might want a service like Experian or those. They have services to go out and monitor your accounts and see if fraudulent
But
activity.
that's one of the ones that I have that goes ahead and tells me.
Right. So you've already taken that step of protection.
Oh, so I don't have to do anything. When they tell me, this month you had, you were lucky you didn't have anything. Next month they might say, oh, we found something on.
If you have a service that's letting you know, but you gotta monitor your accounts. I mean, one of the things, right, in the finance side, you really, I'm now kind of getting a little pressed for time.
Yeah.
In the tips I'm gonna give at the end, one of the things is you really should be looking at your financial accounts every month to make sure the transactions that happen are right. Because you've got a small window to go to your bank.
And
And
credit cards too.
like one of the, yes, and your credit cards, any of your financial stuff. I mean, for instance, one of the things that I have, once again, Bank of America, I have a thing where if something is withdrawn from one of my accounts above a certain limit, I get an immediate email. So then I can look at it, oh, my wife's buying a bunch of clothing again, right? But, you know, but it's those kinds of things that being quick and being responsive to that gives you a much better chance. As you said, right, once it's gone, it's gone. Pretty much.
I was
So-
gonna say that his question, that if you get an alert about your personal info, your name and date of birth out there, you can't change that, right? But if it's any of your account info, change that at account info.
Right.
But if it's something like your address, you're not gonna move, right? That is what it is. But if it's an account information, a password, change it as soon as you can.
That's,
So, yeah, that's, I guess what I don't know. So like if Expedient tells me, then how do I know what I have to go to then?
It'll tell you what account.
It'll tell you
and what password it was.
so it might tell you, hey, your Amazon.com email and password, now you definitely want to go in and change that password.
Right.
Right. Good, thanks. Figured that out. So browsers, remember, browsers are different than search engines. So the browsers will let you get into the internet. And so I use, this is on my laptop. I use Safari. And if you hit on Safari, it brings down a menu and it gives you a settings and a privacy report that you can get into. And so my privacy reports, I put this up because it's interesting to see. In the last 30 days, because I have the settings on Safari to, you know, protect me and try and hide me and that kind of stuff, trackers prevented from profiling me 172 times. 69% of the websites contacted trackers, tried to, you know, cross-track. And the bad actor was Google Manager. 204 times it tried to profile me across 204 websites. But here you see Norton.com was my fourth highest website to track me, which I pay for this service to prevent this kind of stuff from happening. So, but you can see who your bad actors are. So that's just a privacy report, but just to show you, right? People are looking for you. And most of that's innocuous in the sense that this is why if you do a quick search for tires for your car, all of a sudden, oh, Michelin tires, Goodyear tires, hey, you know, go down to Chaucer's and Choices and get your tires fixed, right? All of a sudden start popping up because it saw that you did search and it let people, hey,
You can
someone's
turn that off.
yeah, you can. But that's the point, and that's what you do. So that same menu, there was security and privacy. So security, right? Fraudulent site. So I have it warns me when I'm visiting a fraudulent site. It's not a real site. Or web content, enable JavaScript. So some people are concerned about JavaScript because it can help benevolent actors get in. But I do have it enabled because I use it sometimes. But you can turn that one off. Privacy, right? It prevents cross-site tracking, hides my IP address, and requires Touch ID to view locked tabs. My phone has, or my tablet has a thing for my fingerprint, and so it's like a two-factor authentication kind of thing. So, you know, these are some of the settings you can go in and make sure that your browser is more secure. Does that make sense? Yes?
I don't do my fingerprint on anything because I figure someone can knock me out and put my finger on my phone and get it. So I don't use it.
Movies.
I don't use it.
Well, so,
Because I figure they're not gonna be able to get the password. I mean,
yeah.
it just
I mean,
seems
but
like it's easy, it's easier to break into your phone. If you fall asleep, I can just take it. But
Yeah, I mean, certainly they can do that, right? I mean, there's
I
one
use
where
passwords instead.
where you're doing something, I forget where I was looking at, and to verify who you are, it takes a picture of it and then it tells you to turn to the side and it wants to see that you're not dead, right? And, you're really moving.
I
you're
keep
going
trying with
up.
my iPhone, closing my eyes and putting it up,
Yeah,
and it doesn't work. Your eyes do have to.
Right, be open, yeah.
For your facial
Yeah.
recognition on that.
but like anything, I mean, it's all different, and they're trying to make it a little more convenient. I'm personally not worried about that. I trust that they.
Fingerprints are gone.
I was gonna say, my fingerprints don't work most of the time, that's really where it started. I feel like I warm my finger, so I just, but yeah, I watched it, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So, real quick comment on two-factor authentication. Just what it is. It's a security system that requires two distinct identifications in order. So you go in, you put your username, you put your password, and then that site comes back and either sends you an email with a 6-digit code that you have to enter in, or it will send you a text, right? And that's a different path. And, you know, you have to have both things, you trying to get into the website and the other path. And it's a much more secure way to do it. The only thing, a lot of times when you set up two-factor authentication, if you're someplace and your battery dies or something like that, and now you can't do two-factor authentication, they will give you sometimes like 10 codes, like Google Chrome will give you 10 codes to access the site with all your passwords and everything, so that you don't have to do two-factor authentication. You have, and each of the codes on that piece of paper are one use. So you use it, you can get in. So like for me, if I'm in Europe and I can't use two-factor authentication, I have a little code. And then I cross off the one I use, and then I use the next one, and so on. So just make sure you put that in a safe place, because A, it's a pretty important piece of information to need, but it's also one you want to keep secure. But that's usually an option to offer when you do two-factor authentication. You don't have to do it, you know, but it can make life more convenient. Credit reports. So, my wife told me I had too much information. Who are the 3 credit reporting agencies?
TransUnion
Equifax. There you go. So, you're entitled to a free credit report annually from each one. So some people space them out, one every 4 months, so they're always getting kind of the current one. And you can see things like this. Somebody opened up a credit card in your name, right? You might not know about it. Or you can correct mistakes. And the FTC has a link to get your reports. I'm going to show you that in a minute. It's the Federal Trade Commission, right? So, and it's a .gov, right? And you can freeze your credit reports. It's relatively easy to unfreeze. This has been my experience. And I'd love to know what's going on there. It prevents bad actors from accessing your report and getting your data. And you need to contact Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion to do it. You have to go to each one of them and set it up individually. So, Federal Trade Commission, wonderful website. Lots of really good information on it. So you want to make sure you go to ftc.gov. A lot of people try to spoof that, right? Something similar looking. Matter of fact, interestingly enough now, people are starting to use, like the Cyrillic A in the Russian language is very similar to our A, but it's a different character. And so people will put that A in to make it, it's just amazing how incredibly innovative people get. But you can do all kinds of things. For instance, you asked about this, report fraud. So there's a way that you can go in, I'll go into that a little bit. Now, the truth is, they get so many of these that they've got to get a lot of the same thing before they're going to take any action. But the more you report, it helps. You can get your free credit report, and so you click on that link. You can report identity theft. You can complain. So go to that website, and then you go to free credit report. It takes you to this page, and it gives you a lot of good information about it. But how to get your free credit reports. It then takes you to a .com site that's been set up by the three companies. But what I like about this is I started out with the government, and they brought me to that link directly, so I know I'm up to the right site. Because I actually think last night when I was kind of putting this together and getting these, I think I went to the wrong site, and it didn't look quite right, and I backed out, and I went into the FTC, and I ended up at a different site. So, this is a safe way to get to the real site where you can ask for your credit reports. And I didn't go into the details of it. I did it. I mean, they do ask for some pretty sensitive information, right? Because it's going to give you your credit report. It's going to confirm it's you. But it's relatively easy and it's informative to see how good you've been doing in paying off your credit cards. And other things. So I strongly recommend that you do that. And like I said, if you stagger each one every 4 months, you're basically keeping pretty current.
Oh, you can put in a request to have it every 4 months.
No, you have to actually go. So first you go to TransUnion and then you go to Equifax and Experian. You set it right on the calendar. Time to request a credit report. Yeah, they don't. Let me tell you, Experian, and they don't want to make it too easy for you. And the other thing that will happen is you'll get all kinds of ads because they'll want to sell you all kinds of services. So you start getting the ads and you just say unsubscribe. And then you can report. So that was that link that took you to this. You hit report now, and it brings up these 10 choices so they're looking for all kinds of stuff like an auto repair that's fraudulent, online shopping, sweepstakes, lottery, or something else. So, and then they take you through a series of steps and pages. They've tried to make it really easy and guide you through it. I didn't take it past this stage, but it's not that hard to report. And it's kind of a helpful thing. So, 2 minutes. Recommended practices. So I've tried to encapsulate last week, this week, kind of some of the key things. Don't reuse the password and use hard to crack. Enable two-factor authentication. Set up security settings on apps, browser, computer, your phone. Help you with some of that next week. Maybe a second email for your bank and investments, and that's all you use it for. You never go to any other sites. You never get it, so you don't get into the spam and emails and all that other kind of stuff. Monitor your financials. You get a new statement, go and look at it. Never send money without discussing with a trusted person. Quick story. So my stepmom, I love her. She was a wonderful person, and she was the most kind soul in the world. If there was a spider in the house, she'd capture it, she'd take it outside. She would fall for every sob story that came along. I finally, because I knew she was really high integrity, I finally made her promise me, you will not give money to anybody until you talk to me. And so then she'd go to do it. She made that promise to her son-in-law. So then she would call me and we'd talk about it. And more times than not, I'd convince her, no, it's probably somebody that doesn't need the money. They just want the money. And but that intervention, right, can be a helpful step. And you need to think about how you can be that person for others. Check businesses out. The ratings, the Better Business Bureau recommendations, get multiple quotes. If you're going to have work done, don't put checks in the mailbox. We've had a problem here with checks getting stolen. Yeah.
So take it right to the.
Take it to the post office. If you leave it in your mailbox with the flag up, what are you telling everybody to drive by? Free check! Right here.
Stay current on scams. Review and freeze your credit reports. And shopping online, stick to reputable sites.
Can I add one little thing?
Yeah.
That we've talked about? Check the email address that your email is coming from, and if it looks strange, don't open it.
Yeah, never click on a link in an email. So there are all kinds of great resources, and Sheriff's Department puts out fraud alerts detailing what's going on. As I said, my Bank of America provides a lot of good tools and information. Snopes, they have a site, or they have one of their things, 20 online scams. They keep it current. They update it. So lots of resources to use, insurance companies, government websites, consumer reports. How many of you read consumer reports? It's a great magazine, and I've been reading it for 60 years. The AARP has some really good, very approachable information on scams and things like that.
I just got a scan from them last week, but it wasn't from them.
Yeah, it was.
It looked like it, and again, that was checking the email address.
The local newspapers publish stuff. Dem Stars had some stuff, the Washington Post, this is all from the Washington Post. Computer repair shops can be helpful. I'll talk about that in a minute. There's a charity rating services. It used to be free, and I went to use it last night. Now they do some stuff, but if you're going to give to a charity, you want to know, is it really a charity? Is it really registered to the IRS? And how much money goes in the pockets of the charity administration versus how much goes to help people? It used to be a pretty good site, and then there's Snopes. So Consumer Reports has an interesting thing. Always good articles and stuff, but they have a free, you don't have to be a member, security planner. And it asks you a couple of quick questions, nothing personal. And then it creates for you a set of 29, or well, in my case, because of what I checked, 29, but it gives you a set of tips. And these are pull down menus, and it walks you through how to implement it. It's a pretty nice tool. And I mean, I trust Consumer Reports, and they're not asking for any of your information. So you can kind of, it's just like reading something. So that's a thought. Checking charity. So Charity Navigator. So they do this thing where, and these were the top charities, the ones that return the most money. But, and this is right here in Gaithersburg, right, locally here. But you can go and look up. So if you do a lot of charity giving, and some of us are at that stage where we're involved in a lot of that, the membership, this I think is like $50 or $60 a year. And so then it will give you detailed access to, and you just type in the name of the charity and it pops up. And I've used it before when it was free. I've used it. It's been very helpful and it's very eye-opening. There were some charities that I thought were pretty cool, and after I've seen it, I decided not so. But you can also go to the IRS, and they have a tax-exempt organization search. And you can put in the name of the company or the organization, and they'll show you, are they really tax-exempt organization? So you can confirm that. And the other one that you might want to look at, and this is the link to it, is the 50 worst charities in America. Surprise who's on that list, and they keep it current. They update it. So we want our money to go where it really can help people, right? Local repair shops. So we have 2 private computer stores in the area. I have business cards from Jason's, and I forgot to bring them up, but I'll bring them next week. And I'm going to go visit Computers at Easton and get the same from him.
There's also a Dr. Computer,
Oh.
which is very good. It's Jesus.
There's also a fellow in the Amish market,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll have to visit that.
but I can't remember his name.
Okay. And then I stopped by Staples, and Staples will provide a service too. So they have person probably is there, but so you can go online, and some of these can actually, for a fee, they'll maintain and give you a virus checker, and they'll put it on, and they're kind of on call for you, so there's your own little protector to you.
It'll be
So next week, please give me the surveys back so I know what we're gonna do. Bring a device if you want help doing it. We'll try to work it. We're not gonna record next week. So this one, I would ask if we're gonna do it in person, just because I don't want the potential of anybody's personal information leaking out.
Are you still doing the Zoom? Am I just not recording? I can turn off
I'll poll everybody and see. I really prefer to have
rather
everybody.
stay right here. It makes sense to me.
And in the meantime, try some of the suggestions and bring back questions, and we'll try to help next week. All right.
Thank you.
And then these are all the different fake things that I've gotten recently. It's just incredible.
I've seen that
It's-
last